Hi guys, Miss Womack here, going over inverse sine information, inverse trig functions, and we'll begin with this first one that we have, which is the sine of -1. And what we're going to need are a magic unit circle to help us out with this, just a pinch. So these were fairly simple when you have the unit circle. So it's asking, really, what is the measure of, when we see this right here, what is the measure of the angle where the sine value is 1/2? Now, you do need to understand that we're going to find all sine values. Well, sine has its own location, cosine has its own location. We have restrictions when we find it on the unit circle. Our positive values are going to be found in quadrant 1. Our negative values are going to be found in quadrant 4. So, we've been discussing that in class. So we can see that this is positive 1/2, so we're definitely going to be looking there. So just start looking. Now remember that the sine value is actually the y's. So where's the y? 1/2. That's all that's really asking. Right there. So what's your answer? In radians, it would be pi 6. Pi 6 is going to be your answer. Try another one. This one's pretty easy. When you have the unit circle, makes it super easy. So again, what's the measure of the angle where the cosine value is 1/2? Again, this is positive, so we're going to be in this quadrant. This time looking for the x value. Ooh, I see it right there. Do you see it? So our answer is going to be pi thirds. That also is a 60-degree angle. Those are equivalent to one another. Again, that's going to be pi thirds. Try another one. Now remember that the graph, I've kind of scribbled it down here of tangent, even though it's located in quadrants 1 and 3, we'll be finding our answers similar to sine value on the unit circle from the positive ones will be in this first quadrant, and the negative ones will be in the fourth quadrant. Just keep that in mind. So this one's positive, and this is going to be the square root of 3 over 3. Now, we did play with this a little bit because tangent is actually going to be equal to the y value or the sine value over the x value, which means you have to divide 1/2 divided by the square root of 3 over 2. And if you'll put that in your calculator for just 1 minute, you'll see, or maybe you've memorized it. It is actually the square root of 3 over 3. So I'm going to write that tangent value here, the square root of 3 over 3. So we'll use that one. This one, easy, because it's going to be 1, our tangent value. And this one's just the square root of 3. Again, you would have to do the square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. I'll do again, we've done this math a lot in class, so I'm kind of just going to put that one out there so you don't lose your momentum as you're learning how to do this, right? So this one's asking, where on the circle is the measure of the angle where the tangent value is the square root of 3 over 3? Well, that's going to be this location right here. In other words, it opens up from here to here. That's a 30-degree angle, but we'll be answering that in radians, which is pi 6. Now here's arc cosine, and remember, arc cosine is really simply the same thing. We can write it both ways, like this or like arc cosine. And we also see kind of the meaning to it. It's actually asking, what's the measure of the arc to the point where the cosine value, which is the x value, is the square root of 3 over 2? Now, actually, we can go on the outside and just kind of go up. It's right there. Because we see the cosine value, which is x, ta-da, is the square root of 3 over 2. And our answer is going to be pi 6. Easy peasy. Arc sine, this is going to be pi 4ths. Pretty easy to find on that one because the sine and cosine value are the same. Arc tangent, that's going to be where we just found it right here. Those two numbers divided by one another. It's going to be our answer. Arc sine. Now, this is the first time that we actually see the negative sign on this one. And so it's actually asking, what is the arc sine? And, oh, I caught this one. There was is actually a typo, and so we need to just have one or the other on this one. We're just going to treat it like that. Just be a typo on there. That worksheet had one, so we'll just take that one off for now. So this one's the arc sine of -1, and we know, again, I do want to clarify, even though the sine function exists in quadrant 1 and quadrant 3, we're going to find our answers from quadrant 1, our positive, and our negative ones from quadrant 4. So on this one, we'll actually find them from the -1/2, which is right here on our sine value. But do remember, we do have a restriction on our domain. That's why we're not writing 11 pi 6. We're actually going to write that as negative pi 6. So our answer on this one would be negative pi 6. Okay, is it that one or that one? Why, it's negative pi 6. Okay, our next one, which is arc cosine, and -1/2. Again, we'll find that from this quadrant over here. So where's the cosine value? -1/2. It's the x value is -1/2. I can see you're right here. And again, that's going to be an angle opening up to 2 pi thirds. That's going to be our answer here. We do have negative pi 6 on this one. This is arc tangent, and we found that right here. Again, you can divide 1/2 and divide that by the square root of 3 over 2, and you'll actually get that value right here. And this is our location, pi 6, but it's going to be negative pi 6 because we found our negative values in quadrant 4. The negative values of cosine are going to be found in quadrant 2, and that's why we'll see that at 5 pi 6. Our negative values here, again, they're going to be, we're going to put a restriction on that. Even though these are the same location, 7 pi fourths, and again, we're down here at our sine value right there. We will actually use the -1 right here because our domain restriction states that it has to be between negative pi halves and positive pi halves. And I'll go ahead and flip through these. If you have any other questions in class, so you can double check those, we can talk about them in class. Oh, we did have a couple of questions on this one, so I may slow down a little bit on this one. Why, again, that it's at pi thirds. Somebody had asked, why is that one at pi thirds? Once again, just remember, and why isn't it down here at the bottom, I think somebody said. Well, it's positive, and if you take these two values right here and you did the square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2, you find the tangent value. And that's actually going to end up being leave it, change it, flip it, it'll be the square root of 3. Make sure you plug that in your calculator just to double check. That is why it is pi thirds. Here's just a few more of those. So again, this was 1 through 20 where we're just finding it using the unit circle.